Hello everyone! As you might know, I'm fashion designer, tailor, a little bit of engineer, and educator. But what I do the most is alterations. I fix garment for my customers. And what it can be, the same request is always different because every garment is different. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to enlarge the waist on a skirt without any trace. So let's go! This is the skirt I need to enlarge. As you can see, it has some pleats. It has the pleats at the front and at the back. I need to make it 3 inches and 3/4 bigger. So we are gonna take those pleats that are at the back and we are gonna use the extra material to make that waist bigger. So first of all, let me check how much material I have. So I can see that those pleats are 1 inch and 3/4, but that's double. And we have 2. So if I reduce the size of 2 pleats, then I will have absolutely like what I need. So I'm gonna let out in each pleat half of what I need. So I'm gonna start obviously opening the waistband. Usually my customers don't care so much for the label. The labels sometimes are a little bit uncomfortable, but because this skirt is a vintage one, I'm gonna keep the label and then I'm gonna put it back. So, you know, historically they can identify that product. So because I don't wanna lose it, I'm gonna just pin it at the other side of the skirt. And when I finish the job, I'm gonna put it back. I'm gonna try to find the center point on my facing and I'm gonna just make a cut just right in the center. I'm gonna take the help of my ruler because I'm gonna make sure to make that cut straight, just perpendicular to the side, so that way my job will be a little better. So as you can see, this skirt is very well done. When they did those pleats, they didn't do it all straight, they shape it, so it takes better the shape of the body. I'm gonna open the top seam of those pleats so I can liberate it and I can work on it. But let me make a little calculation. So I need to let out about 3 inches and 3/4, which is almost 4 inches, right? So if I divided that by 2, it will be 1 inch and 7/8 in each pleat that I need to let out. That's almost 2 inches, right? So in each pleat I need 1 and 7/8. That means that I still need to divide that again by 2 because one side and the other side, right? So that will be 7/8 plus 1/16. So I could have just say almost 1 inch. That's what I say. Almost 4, almost 2, almost 1. So it's like a 1 inch and then 1/16 short of the 1 inch. So this is what we are gonna let out. So I'm gonna take my ruler and I'm gonna mark from the seam towards the side this almost 1 inch. And because I told you before that those pleats has a shape, so I'm gonna try to make a parallel line all around. So I'm gonna try to measure the 1 inch and 7/8 from the top to the bottom. I'm gonna press that pleat to remove the crease and I'm gonna mark it again. That way my job will be nicer. And as you can see, I need to take the curved ruler to do that line so it will keep the shape of the body, which is very nice. I'm gonna do exactly the same at the other pleat. And then I'm gonna go to my sewing machine and I'm gonna sew over the marks I did. I always like to use some pins so the material doesn't run too much. And I'm gonna make the same at the other pleat. Now is the time to open the seam in those pleats and I'm gonna measure to see if I let out what I needed. And yes, I let out the 3 inches and 3/4 on the skirt part. So now I can finish my skirt by letting out the facing. For that, I'm gonna measure the width of my facing, which is 2 inches and 3/4. And I'm gonna mark a rectangle of these 2 inches and 3/4. And for the length, I'm gonna calculate 1/2 inch for seam allowance. I'm gonna sew at 1/4, but I need the seam allowance from the skirt because I cut it in the center. So this 1/2 inch will be a little bit for my piece and a little bit from the original piece. Then I'm gonna put the 3 inches and 3/4 that I need and then another 1/2 inch to connect the other side, and that's it. Now I have my length, and I measured before that the width will be 2 inches and 3/4. That way I complete all the measurements I needed for the extra material on the waistband. And I'm gonna take a little bit of pelon. I don't use too often the pelon, but I wanna be authentic because this is a vintage skirt and they use the pelon interfacing before all the time. In my country, we don't call it interfacing, we just call it pelon, and that's it. As the brand. Now I'm gonna search that piece, and I'm gonna search as well the waistband that I cut. And now I'm gonna make sure to redo the pleats before I close that waist. So pretty much I have to erase the original creases and then create the new creases. I'm trying to use some helper so I can open well my pleats, and I think it's looking very good, yes. So now that I'm confident, I can go back to my sewing machine and I'm gonna start making a stay stitch. The function of this stitch is to hold that line, because what happens is that it can lose the shape when I sew back the waistband. I'm gonna add now the extra material to the waistband facing, and remember that I calculated that I needed to sew at 1/4 inch. Now my waist facing is completed, and I'm gonna make a last measurement just to confirm that everything is okay, and it is. And I'm gonna sew back this facing. To do that, I make sure that the understitch is well open so I can sew first and then I can understitch. This is very important when you do alterations, although I have a trick that I don't use too often, but if it's something that I have to do fast, I can do it without having to open too much. I'm sewing my waistband facing to my skirt. Then I'm sewing back a stabilizer. It did has that stabilizer before. I'm putting a new one just because, of course, the stabilizer is too short for the waistband, so I'm completing it. Then I'm gonna do the stay stitch. And the stay stitch, keep the facing in because you don't want to see the facing when the skirt is done. My skirt is almost done. Now I'm gonna press it just to make sure that everything will fall in place, and I'm gonna sew back. You see, it wasn't just the label, it was as well the care instructions, and the care instructions are very important, so these ones I always put them back. I'm sewing back now the label, and now I'm making sure to tack down the waistband facing, that way it doesn't move too much. This label is a little bit too wrinkly, so I'm gonna press it a little bit so it looks a little better, more kind of new condition. And as you can see, oh, Diana Charles. I noticed that the zipper on this skirt was broken too, and this alteration is very easy, but in general people are a little bit afraid to tackle this. Let me show you how to do it. If you didn't know how to do it, you won't believe how easy it is. You will need the zipper foot. It doesn't matter what side, because one side or the other, you just put it the other way. So I just take this one, which is the most comfortable for me to work with because it's so wide. And then what I'm gonna do is to make a stitch exactly where the original stitch was until the point that the zipper starts. I'm gonna cut out this loose thread, and I'm gonna start a little low. As I said, you can use the other side too to be more comfortable if you want. And then I'm gonna stitch exactly where the original stitch was, and I'm gonna stop where the zipper starts. And that's it. Yeah, done. 30 seconds. Perfect job. You see, in general, people are very afraid of that job, but this is very easy to do. And here you go. This is the skirt. It's all done. Now it fits the mannequin, and it will fit for sure my customer. And let me show you the back. You see, this is the back, so you wouldn't even tell that this skirt has been altered. If you find this video useful or entertaining, please give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe, share, comment. Bye!